Hey guys, so trying something different today. The lighting in my apartment is pretty awful and I've been trying to find a better alternative. I think this will work. Let me know if it's too boring. I don't want it to be too cluttered behind me, but I also don't want it to be so plain that you kind of just zone out. But yeah, so let me know if this setup works or if you think I should go back to the weird lighting or the shelf situation. Yeah, that's my life. Okay, so today is actually the first day of classes, and I work at a university, so today's gonna be crazy. I'm recording this now because the rest of the week is probably gonna go downhill from here. So if I seem a little frazzled, it's because this is totally unplanned and unpracticed. There might be bus sounds because, again, first day of classes, and I live on a busy street, so that's what I deal with. Today I'm gonna go over my editing, writing, read through process, and this is a little different from my usual process. I've still been trying to gain a better feel for what works for me, and with the different drafts, every edit looks totally different. I have been growing and learning more and gaining new skills, and I think my current practice is actually working really well. So what I've been doing is I'm reading through draft 4 of the novel, and the first draft, just to kind of give you some background, the first draft was obviously just the dirty draft. It was a NaNoWriMo draft. I went straight through from beginning to end and wrote this thing. I let it sit for a few months and then I went back to it and read it, and I felt pretty comfortable with the beginning, and I still feel pretty comfortable with the beginning except for the details. The details have changed slightly, but the way that the plot starts in the beginning has stayed pretty much the same ever since that first draft. The details have changed, obviously, but the middle and the ending always are the areas that I have the most difficulty with, especially with this novel because it is a urban slash high fantasy. It combines genres and it goes from one setting to a totally different setting. So I have some difficulties there sometimes in getting the transition correct. And that's what I've been mostly working on. That's been the hardest bit for the last few drafts. So with the second draft, it was pretty much, I had read through it. I had kept the beginning, but mostly rewritten everything from the middle onwards. A lot of stuff changed. A few characters were killed in the process, and some setting details were totally eliminated, a few different things. Between drafts 2 and 3, then, I waited a few more months, worked on a totally different project, let it kind of just like melt away from my mind, and then came back to it, read it all on paper, and went back to writing. Now, when I was reading it on paper, I decided to physically handwrite my notes, and that took forever. And I found that when I actually went back to transcribe, I was not using any of them because in the transcribing, I was having whole new ideas, and I didn't use any of those real like sentence level notes. So that was a lesson. I don't bother with sentence level notes, especially at that stage anymore, and I had also had a beta go through it at that point. So between drafts 3 and 4, there was a beta who read the novel and gave me some feedback on plot. So between that and the next draft, I did redo some major scenes. I rewrote some chapters. I introduced some characters earlier on in the story based on some of the feedback, which I agreed with, and that's what I love about the beta process, because sometimes they reveal something you didn't realize, but other times they just kind of confirm what you were thinking all along but were maybe too hesitant to do. So I introduced some characters earlier. I amped up the magical system a bit more, and I think that really helped the story a lot, but I really needed that extra set of eyes to kind of give me the push to do that. So now I'm on draft 4 to 5. So I have it out with 4 betas right now, at least 2 of which I am expecting feedback from. 2 are kind of like my backups or just readers, and I put my feelers out for more than 2 just for that reason, because I can never tell who's going to return it to me and who's going to kind of like lose interest or whose life is just going to get too difficult. So there are 2 that I expect and 2 that I may receive eventually, and if and when I do, I'll use that feedback just maybe to go through the details a little more. But for the most part right now, I'm only counting on feedback from 2 of them. So I have that out there, and now I'm actually reading it myself. For the 3 to 4 draft, I also did some I read it on my iPad, so I converted the file to an EPUB and read it on my iPad because I thought, well, let me try something different. And that worked relatively well, but I found that I also was taking a very long time because then it was that need to write on something, so I started transcribing notes within the note section of iBooks. Couldn't help myself. So that took forever as well. So again, process, learning, I never go back and use those notes. I did try to restrain myself. I didn't write like new sentences in the notes, but I did start giving myself more direction, and that also slowed down the process. So this time I scrapped the system, I started fresh. And while the novel is out with readers, what I did is that I've been giving myself the challenge of reading at least 2 chapters a day, which is probably going to go out the window this week because that's just not going to happen. Not with my schedule this week. I'm not expecting to get home early. I'm not expecting to have much free time for lunch or anything like that. So if I get through a chapter a day this week, that will be good, and then I'll make it up on the weekend. But I have split the novel into chapters, and I've been going through and picking it apart. What I have been doing this time is using a key. So I'm looking mostly for areas where I feel like I need to add either details to the plot or backstory, or vice versa, remove backstory or details that don't add anything to the plot. Areas where I feel like setting needs work, motivation, character development, etc. So I created a key with just random little scribbles that I can relate to. And I am now going through, and anything that I just want to change the wording to, like those sentence level changes that were the thing holding me up. It was just the big hang up I had, and rewriting as I'm trying to read, it doesn't really help because I'm still trying to get a sense of the entire picture, and if I focus on the details, I'm not going to get there. One of the reasons why you shouldn't focus on typos or anything like that at this level is just because those words might change. So whether you're writing a novel or a paper for school, focusing on the typo level stuff or the minor level local changes really doesn't help you if you have big major global changes that need to happen. So I'm just underlining, just straight up underlining anything that I want to go back to. If I feel like words are repetitive, I'm circling those so I can go back to them, and it gets, much more impressive as I go through. But I'm also highlighting if I need to change a section. I have these gel highlighters that I've really been loving because they don't transfer. So you can sort of see that we'll just go back and tell myself if there's highlighter, I need to rewrite the whole thing. So there are a few sections where I have plenty of highlighter. I don't even know if I'm on screen right now because I keep looking at the mirror, but plenty of highlighter or plenty of text where I need to go back, and I've either given myself directions or told myself what to change, but I'm not doing the sentence level work. So I am just breezing through this. I started 4 days ago, and I am on chapter 11, or the new chapter 11, because my chapter titles get a little screwy because of all the edits and changes I've made. But I'm nearly halfway through, and I've only been reading for 4 days, which is a lot more impressive because generally a read through has taken me anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks in the past. So as I'm now going through the text, I'm just simplifying it. I'm doing the underlining, the symbols, just giving myself like writer stage directions almost for what I want to do in the future. And then I'm actually relying on Evernote, which has become a huge essential part of my writing process in the last few projects I've worked on. Not only have I been using it for outlining and fast drafting, because it's so easy to get into, just get it everywhere. I know that Scrivener now has an app, but my iPad is just too small, and I don't have a ton of Mac products other than the iPad and the phone. So using it to be portable doesn't really work for me because I work on a Chromebook primarily. So maybe I'll look into that in the future, but for now, Evernote is working beautifully, and I know that I sound like some sort of advertisement for it, but it is an awesome product. If you can afford the Plus or the Premium, it's even better because you get the ability now to access it across platforms, whereas before it was free, now it's not. But the cost is kind of nominal, and I feel like it's worth it. I'm using it so much that it's totally worth it. So I'm actually creating a list as I go through. It almost looks like an outline, but it's sort of like an outline of edits. So after each page or chapter or section or whatever where I take copious notes, I then sort of quickly transcribe them in a shorthand and sort of tell myself revise scene transitions from pages whatever to whatever, or I'll say something like, this character has been mentioned 3 times. Why haven't they been introduced? Which I discovered is a thing I've been doing. That's what happens between drafts. Somehow you take out a scene and you realize that even though it wasn't necessarily a crucial scene to your plot, maybe somebody got introduced and you got rid of that. And now this person is like an imaginary character in the back end because this one character keeps mentioning them and nobody has met this person. So just a little bit of a silly point there. That does happen when you're editing. You might accidentally kill someone without intending to. Yeah. So I need to go back and do that. I need to fix that. Anyhow, I think that is about all I have to share with you guys today. Let me know if you have any strategies, techniques that you use when editing, or just anything that works for you in general, kind of keeps you grounded. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, or leave a comment down below if you have anything to add or any suggestions to make regarding anything. You know, if you want me to make a video on some aspect of my writing process, or maybe even just research or whatever, yeah, I'll definitely take suggestions. So thank you guys, and see you later. Bye.